Hello, students. Today we'll discuss about the process of communication. So before we start with the process, let us discuss or see to it that what are the elements which come in the communication process. So all of you know that communication means passing on the message from one person to other person through a medium. So when you say one person to other person, one person might be a sender who sends the message. The other person has to be the receiver who has to receive the message and understand the message. And to send the message and to receive the message, you should have certain medium in between. So we have a medium. And what to send? There should be a message, right? So this is what the elements which includes in the communication process. So in this slide, you can see the elements of communication. The first and foremost thing what you should have is an information or a message with you. Then there should be one person who is called as the sender who has a message with him or her, and that message has to be conveyed to the other person. So this sender understands the message and attaches the meaning to the message. That is called encoding process. So once the encoding is done, the message will be passed on through the medium. So the suitable medium to pass on to the recipient will be identified. So there will be a recipient who has to receive the message from the sender and has to understand the message in the way the sender has sent the message. So that process is called as decoding process. So once the recipient has understood the message, he has to give the feedback to the sender so that the sender will understand whether the receiver has understood the message in a proper way or not, or whether the message has been conveyed in a proper way or not. So in between this process, when the message has been passed through a medium, so there might be some disturbances which is attributed to a noise, so which might disrupt the process of communication. So noise is one of the disturbances in this particular process. So it is also one of the elements of the communication. So these are the elements of the communication process in general. So what are those? Information and a message. You have a sender who has the message to send. So sender attaches the meaning to the message, that the process called as encoding process. Then once the message has been encoded, a suitable medium will be chosen to pass on to the recipient. So receiver will receive the message first, then he will try to understand and detach the meaning of or the encoded meaning to the message, and then gives back the message or the feedback to the sender so that the sender will understand whether the receiver has understood the message in the proper way or not. And while the message is being passed on through the medium, there might be noise which causes the disturbance or disrupts the passage of the message. So these are the elements of communication. So there are three models which needs to be discussed as per the syllabus. So the first model is the two-way communication process model, or we can say basic model. What we say is the Shannon-Weaver model. This is about the elements of communication what we discussed now. This is the first model developed about the communication process, that is called as linear concept model. So this is very simplest model, and it includes the following elements: a sender, a media, a receiver, and followed by the action. So this concept is based on the assumption that the message is passed in a linear way. That is the reason it is called as linear concept. The message is passed in a linear manner from the sender to the receiver, only in one way only, through a suitable medium, and there is no disturbance, no disruption, no distortion of the message when it is being passed on from the sender to the receiver through a medium. So once the receiver receives the message, he is put on to the action. This is a communication process as per the linear concept model, very basic model, and the assumption is it is a linear, the process is one way, it passes in a linear manner. Next model was a Shannon-Weaver model given by two persons by name Shannon and Weaver. So they say there is an information source, and from the information source, through the transmitter, the message is been passed on through the channel to the receiver, and it reaches the destination. So in between, they say it is not linear, as it has been said in the linear concept model. It is not the linear way. It is not one-way process, and it is also when the message has been passed on through a channel to the receiver, there is always a disturbance, always a distortion of the message because of the noise, external disturbances that is attributed to the noise. So a noise has been included in the model. And also they say feedback is not the integral part of this model, but they included feedback as one of the elements of the model. That is the reason they say it is like not one way model. So this was given by Shannon-Weaver in 1949. The final and the most accepted model of communication process is two-way communication process, wherein we have a sender, we have a receiver, we have a medium through this medium or a channel through which a message is being passed, and we have noise also here, and we have the feedback also here. So this is called as two-way because the communication flows from sender to receiver, also from receiver to sender through feedback. So we can see sender has an idea here. So he encodes. So this is the encoding process, and he passes the message through a channel. So receiver receives the message, decodes the message here, and he tries to understand the message. Once the receiver has understood, here she tries to give the feedback to the sender. So there is a feedback here. And while the message is passed on through the channel, there are external disturbances called as noise also acting. Okay. So once the feedback is sent, there is also possibility that additional feedback also comes to the receiver from the sender if at all the message is not properly understood by the receiver. So since the message is passed two-way, this is called two-way communication process. So this is about the communication process. Now coming to the characteristics of successful communication, we call it as 7 C's of successful communication. So we have 7 C's here. You can see completeness, conciseness, clarity, concreteness, courtesy, correctness, and candidness. Okay, let us take one by one. Completeness. Whatever message we pass on should be complete. So there should not be any missing data. So we don't know which is important, which is not important. So as a sender, we should always send the complete information to the receiver. So we should not miss on to any of the crucial information to the receiver. So if it always gives some additional information wherever required, and always it leaves no questions in the mind of the receiver. So always help better decision making by audience as they get all and complete information during the process of communication. So conciseness is nothing but being very brief and short. So being using very short words, less number of words. So what happens if you become use very concise words? It saves your time, cost, and also it underlines and highlights main points. But it should be kept in mind that conciseness doesn't mean that you are compromising on the completeness. Okay, so it underlines and highlights the main message, that is avoid excessive and needless, which is using unnecessary words can be avoided. So it provides short and essential message, and no repetitive words or sentences can be used. The next C is clarity. So since the receiver has to understand the message, whatever the message sent by the sender has to be very clear. Okay, so clarity of thoughts and ideas, it enhances the meaning of the message. So make use of exact, appropriate, and concrete words so that receiver understands the message. Coming to concreteness. Concreteness is nothing but being very specific, being very honest. So it is supported with specific facts and figures. How do you become very genuine and specific and honest? You have to be presenting facts and figures, no opinions, no generalizations here. So they are not misinterpreted here, and it makes use of words that are very, very clear here. Courtesy. Courtesy means respecting, giving respect to others through your words. So courtesy implies consideration both viewpoints, feelings of the receiver of the message. It gives a positive and focused at the attempts. So it's showing respect for the receiver of the message. Through your words, your word should speak the politeness, kindness, and respectfulness towards the receiver. So always keep in mind the you attitude when you are speaking. Correctness. Whenever you're giving the information to the other person, make sure you're giving the correct information and intentionally you're not distorting the information. So see to it the message is exact, correct, and well timed. It reaches the receiver on time because it requires some action which has to be done within the stipulated time. And if the communication is correct, what happens? It boosts up the confidence level. And correct message always has a greater impact on the readers. This correctness checks the precision, accurateness of the facts and figures, and it uses appropriate and correct language in the message. Candidness. Candidness is emphasizing on you approach. Empathize with the audience and exhibit interest in the audience. So this will stimulate a positive response from the audience. So show optimism towards the audience. So your words always should be in terms or referring towards your audience. So use the you approach when you are passing the message. So these are the 7 C's of successful communication, or sometimes we call it as 7 C's of communication. That is completeness, conciseness, clarity, concreteness, courtesy, correctness, and candidness. Completeness is giving the complete information and exact information. Conciseness is being very precise, using less words and short messages. Do not use lengthy sentences. Clarity, clearly express whatever the message you have. Concreteness is being very specific and narrow. Don't beat around the bush. Courtesy, show respect in your words. Correctness, no grammatical errors. Be exact in your message. Candidness is being very honest, sincere in giving your information. So this is all about today's lesson about communication process and characteristics of successful communication. 7 C's of successful communication. Thank you.